Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a casted game between kauP and Corvinus. This is the content creator preview of the Sultans Ascend DLC here in AoE 4. We are just a couple of days away from the release of this DLC, but some content creators and some high-level players got early access to this, so we'll take a look at some of these high-level players as they start exploring the new civilizations. To the left, it is kauP with the Order of the Dragon in yellow, and to the right side, it's Corvinus1, formerly known as Salami. He's playing with the Japanese in purple. Now, disclaimer for this cast here, folks. Obviously, the DLC is new for me just as much as it is for the players as well, so I'm also in the process of learning some of these features, but in this cast, I definitely want to highlight some of the new things that are coming with these civilizations and see how players use the unique features of these civs in this game. So right from the get-go, one of the things that we need to talk about is that the Order of the Dragon is probably the simplest new civilization that we have here. Well, we are going to talk about more of this in detail, but long story short, they have villagers that work better, but they're more expensive, and the same applies to their units as well. Every single unit that they make is very expensive and very high quality. Aside from that, it's essentially a fairly standard HRE in many ways. So I guess it's better to focus on the Japanese over here, which do have some unique features. Side note, I've actually switched the villager count at the top of the screen. So if you want to see this villager distribution that the players are having over here, maybe trying to get some build order ideas for yourselves, that's something that you can do from the top. But I will also be releasing some build order videos in the near future. So if you want to check those out, definitely worth subscribing to the channel. Anyway, to start off, Japanese, they do have this unique building, the Forge, which is a mining camp and the blacksmith, as well as the farmhouse, which is a house and a mill. So that's why this farmhouse is placed right next to the berries. Now, for the Forge, it's essentially a blacksmith, but the melee attack upgrade line of the Japanese is very unique. First of all, you get a Dark Age upgrade as well. So in total, you have 4 upgrades. Means that you will get all the way to +4 by the end of the game, compared to just 3 layers for all the other upgrades. That's standard for other civilizations. But when you look at the melee attack line, the other thing that's noticeable is that this is going to cost you stone. In the Feudal Age, Corvinus goes with the Kura Storehouse. Now, this is a very awkward position for the Kura Stonehouse, and I don't know if this is by design or this is just something very awkward, but this landmark spawns farms around it. Now, this is very cool because it means that you have a bunch of farms set up, but because you place it right next to the TC, this side is blocked. But hear me out. If you cannot spawn additional farms, this landmark is going to generate wood. So this is why I'm uncertain if this is actually by design. I'm inclined to believe that it is. Basically, Corvinus is saying, okay, I get all these farms, and then once it's saturated, I'm going to get wood. If he built this away from the town center, first of all, the farms would be more exposed, so there is also this protection element. In fact, you see, the range of the town center is so big that essentially any melee unit trying to attack farmers nearby would be hit by the TC. But I think there could also be an element where he just says, okay, after X amount of farms, I'm getting wood. If he builds this further away, that means that he would need to wait a little bit more to get wood out of this building. He would get more farms. We'll have to see if this is actually the optimal way of using this landmark. I'm not so certain just yet, but it's definitely an intriguing way to place this landmark for Corvinus. In the meantime, other side is just a standard Dark Age opening for kauP. You see he's going up with the Minework Palace. Now, the key thing about the Order of the Dragon is that, as I said, their villagers are unique, they gather faster, and their units are also a lot more expensive. So the concept here going into the Minework Palace is that you want to get these military benefits, like short-term and even into early Castle Age, especially because your villagers are buffed anyways, so getting that extra buff from the Arcane Chapel is less intriguing as it is compared to, let's say, ordinary HRE. Here come the farms, spawning in. Barracks will be on the way for Corvinus. For now, he's playing a fairly standard Dark Age over here, but he's heavy on gold. This is something to keep monitoring. Definitely means that he either wants to go into Castle Age, or he wants to go for some units that will cost him gold. Here comes the barracks. You see, Spearman is a standard unit here for the Japanese, but the two unique units that they are getting in Feudal Age, the Samurai and the Onabugeisha, these units both cost gold for him. Now, the Samurai is a unit that's very good when it comes to being a frontline troop. It does essentially cancel out the first attack coming against it with the deflective armor ability. Whereas the Onabugeisha is a super intriguing unit. I'm actually very hyped about it. It's a very fast-moving unit with an insane attack rate. The base attack is low, but it just attacks so frequently. It's actually kind of a frenzy-style unit in many ways. And looks like kauP is just moving out for the board for the time being. This is a risky endeavor, especially with the Order of the Dragon. This civilization, as I said, it thrives on high-quality units in low amounts, and that is true as well for the Dragon Villager. Losing a Dragon Villager is a lot more painful than losing a standard villager is. So this is something to keep an eye out on, and it means that moving out towards neutral resources like this is a higher danger for the Order compared to, let's say, regular HRE. Aside from this, kauP is just playing a very standard Dark Age, or a Feudal Age, beg your pardon, over here, focusing a little on the eco upgrades. But as you will see, the Order starts unlocking its real power once we get to Castle Age. That's where those super premium units come into play. Corvinus, running into the TC fire over here, has to be careful with that. Looks like some Spearmen will run across the map, and we will have some Onabugeisha as well. So I can actually show you this to you guys. You see, base HP is 85 with no armor, contrary to Spearmen, 80 HP, no armor. Movement speed is 1.25 tiles per second for a Spearman, though. Onabugeisha coming in at 1.50. For comparison, Cavalry is 1.62, at least the Scout is. So this is a very fast-moving infantry unit, and it has 0.9 seconds attack speed. Compare that to the Spearman, sitting at 1.88. So the effective DPS coming out of this Onabugeisha is actually pretty impressive. Yumi Ashigaru will be mixed in over here for Corvinus as well, as he is also going to mix in some horsemen. Now, Yumi Ashigaru is kind of that cheap and scrappy archer type unit. Oh, look at this. Villagers getting intercepted. Onabugeisha coming in with big value. It's kind of being body blocked by the Spearman, which is a little disappointing here for Corvinus. But the Dragon Villagers will be forced to flee over here. I feel like if the Spearman didn't change, this single Onabugeisha would do a lot more damage. Burgrave Palace will be on the way for kauP. Very condensed base. Tower defending the gold mine means that the villagers will be safe. But there isn't any access to food for kauP right now. He's going to be forced to be on berries. Anyway, looking at the Japanese archers, the Yumi Ashigaru, these are very cheap, but slightly weaker archers than the ordinary archers you see for other civs. Their base attack is a little lower. They start to gain power once you bring out the Bannerman, though, which is a unique unit for the Japanese. They do have an archer Bannerman, there is a cavalry one, and there is an infantry one. And each of those units will buff the corresponding unit type. So you have this setup where you want to get that buff unit out to get the maximum out of your Yumi archers. Here comes Castle Age for kauP, though, and he's going to start adding the Gilded Men-at-Arms. Now, rule of a thumb here for the Order of the Dragon is that basically every unit means 2 normal units. The cost is double, the HP is double, kind of damage output as well. But you see 230 HP for a single Man-at-Arms, but it's going to cost you 140 food, 28 gold. That's actually pretty discounted, I must say. But when you look at, for example, Gilded Knights, they will cost you almost 400 resources, but they're also extremely difficult to kill. There's an upgrade coming in for this Man-at-Arms as well. This one. I actually forgot the name, so we'll have to see if that armor icon shows up over here. I saw that for a moment, so we'll have to see what exactly that upgrade is. But there are some unique upgrades here to the Order of the Dragon on the Minework Palace. Number is looking a lot better for Corvinus, though, and, you know, as high quality as these troops are, yeah, there it is. The Golden Chorus takes 20% less damage while below 20% health. That's actually pretty cool, but it's not going to be relevant for most of the fights, especially not when you only have 2 of these troops. This is the tricky thing with the Order. Your unit count is so low. Side note worth noting is that the total military population is computed essentially as double the unit count, because each of these units also cost 2 population. Meanwhile, more horsemen coming in here for Corvinus. You see, he actually has all these farms, but he hasn't been using them just yet. He's actually focusing on berries and sheep, but essentially those farms spawning means that he doesn't need to make a hard farm transition, and that means that he can retain momentum with his aggression. I think this is going to make the Japanese one of the better feudal aggressive civilizations, because you don't lose momentum once you run out of sheep or even berries. Bit of a positional warfare over here, but we do have an Uma Bannerman, which is the cavalry Bannerman type. I don't know where it's at, but it should be coming across at some point. So the horseman will actually get the buff from the Bannerman here. In the meantime, kauP is still going for some of the Gilded Men-at-Arms. He's got some decent numbers, though. Now they have the Castle Age upgrade as well. And the range defense is coming in, too. Relic was picked up over here by kauP. Sneaky, sneaky. He gets out of his base, picks up some relics. He's got one to work with now. Yeah, here comes the Bannerman. I think it's this one right here. You see 230 HP, pretty decent attack as well, well armored. It's a hard unit to kill. Kind of a knight-style unit in many ways, but it's going to buff the scouts. Plus 15% damage bonus is nothing to be disappointed about. Here comes the push. Lumberjacks will have to fall back. Down center fire is helping out, but there is a lot of idle time here on kauP. In the meantime, Corvinus' eco is still intact. You see, this is where this farm power comes into play. We're actually missing 2,000 farms only, though. That's actually pretty cool. I feel like the safety that you get for this landmark and your villagers is something that you are willing to sacrifice 2 farms for. You see, damage output on these Yumi is just so low. 5 attack only, and these villagers are very tanky. kauP is able to buffer up a lot of damage, and oh, finally, he takes this fight over here. Gilded Men-at-Arms, there are no pushovers, though. They're heavily armored, sitting at 5 melee armor, 6 ranged armor. They will take this fight here, and there is no direct counter unit to them. Men-at-Arms are also being pulled back over here to be healed up. And remember, these guys get 20% damage reduction once they are low HP. Looks like kauP is going to have to retreat over here. He's going to have to pull away the villagers. He's lost 2 villagers in the crossfire, but his army still stands, and I feel like he could fight this. I think he just doesn't want to waste these very expensive men-at-arms. He wants to heal them back. Corvinus, smart to focus down the weak ones. He needs to get rid of them. Now prelates will be pulled in to heal, and look at this fight. This is a good one for kauP. Men-at-Arms just massacring all these troops, and the heavily injured Men-at-Arms barely take any damage. They're being healed up, and this is a beautiful cleanup by kauP. You see this power of the Order. It's all about these premium troops and keeping them alive, and that's something that kauP did a great job with. Granted, he lost some villagers over here, and he's actually down by 10 eco, but Corvinus himself has a lot of idols somewhere. Oh, he ran out of berries. That's pretty ugly out there. Monk gets sniped down. No Vololo in there. The Bannermen survived, so cavalry can still get the buff, but kauP survived this aggression against him. Does have to make a farm transition, though, and that's definitely something that's going to slow him down, especially knowing that his lumberjacks have been idled for so long. Villagers try to sneak out to the berries, will be intercepted by some Yumi. And you see Corvinus is now playing food denial. He denies these berries. He's shifting north to the board to check if kauP is there. Luckily for kauP, he isn't going in that direction. There is a prelate moving in there, though, trying to snatch a relic. Oh, that's going to be a long journey for that relic here, kauP trying to be sneaky. Second relic on the way home, but the prelate will get picked off here, so it's not going to make it home just yet. Corvinus, nice eco over here. Very nice economy here with the Japanese. You see this? In many ways, it's a 1-2 punch from the Japanese that you see in Feudal Age. You have this aggressive ability that's heavily infantry and archer focused like you have for the English, but you also have a much more sustainable economy with the Kura storehouse, houses or the farmhouses acting as mills as well. Means that you drop this building on the hunt, but you also get population space from it. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 package here for Corvinus. Nice raid here, focusing on the villagers. You see, the Bannerman was out there to buff. This Bannerman gets away with just 6 HP. And Corvinus is now heading into Castle Age himself. His landmark of choice is going to be the Temple of Equality. Yumi falling back over here. I'm somewhat surprised that we are actually seeing the Uma Bannerman here for Corvinus. In itself, it's a strong unit, by the way, and he actually has multiple of them. He isn't really using them as buff units, it seems. These units are supposed to buff cavalry. You see, they are the only units glowing. The infantry does not glow. They aren't being buffed by the cav. But it looks like Corvinus has been using them as like proxy knights. Tanky unit, high damage output as well. Something that you can use for quick raids to support this army. But if you wanted to buff the infantry, he would want to use the Katana Bannerman. Looks like we're going to have the Nodachi upgrade coming in as well. A lot of people pointed out that Samurai start with Naginatas, which is an awkward choice. Not really something that many of us would have thought. Once you get the upgrade, they actually get a Nodachi. Farm transition, kind of complete-ish here for kauP, but he does have a very slow-moving army. He's just struggling to catch up with all this cavalry. He could use some walls, to be honest. Maybe walls here. It's a little challenging to wall the north, but you could maybe get some walls up here just to limit the enemy movement. Corvinus has been using this little alley over here to run circles around the enemy, so that's definitely an angle that you could shut down. But for now, he's just gonna go Buddhist monks over here. Let's take a look at these little units. So, Buddhist monks do have the Sohei Sutra ability, which is going to reduce enemy damage. 50% for 60 seconds is pretty massive. It's a beautiful landmark as well, by the way. The hitbox is just this one, but these surrounding little pieces are definitely a good one to look at. This is, I must say, this is one of the nicest looking landmarks of the game. kauP sitting at 38 eco only. Don't forget, these villagers are actually a lot better than ordinary villagers are, and they take more time to train, 24 seconds compared to just 20 seconds. So the villager count is a little deceiving, because at the end of the day, these villagers are more effective. But part of the reason why that's pretty problematic for kauP is that he lost 9 of them. 9 premium villagers lost is not a good thing. On the bright side of things, he does have all 5 relics on the map, so that's a pretty respectable amount of gold income that he's going to get from that. And here comes one of my favorite units, I think one of the most powerful units in the new DLC, the Onimusha. Onimusha seem to also be getting a buff from the Uma Bannerman. This is essentially the crossbow equivalent of Japanese. You see, has 13 base attack with 9 heavy damage or heavy bonus damage. They don't have crossbowmen, they have these units. But these guys have mobility and armor-piercing power as well, combined with a decent base attack. That is a scary... Oh, look at this. Veteran Samurai getting a black armor over here. Tower emergency repairs being called in there, but that's a lot of torch power. kauP is going to have to fight this here. A lot of Onimusha, though, to deal with all these men-at-arms, but these men-at-arms are tanky as well. Let's take a look at this fight. There is the Buddhist samurai, or Buddhist monk, actually, beg your pardon, to just reduce the damage coming in. Gilded Man-at-Arms flanking from the other side, but you can always micro away your Onimusha, assuming that you actually click. Looks like that's not something that Corvinus did here, and he is getting cleaned up by these Men-at-Arms. Onimusha are great against heavily armored troops, but there's just so much HP on these guys. All the prelates are gone, though. Healing power is now gone as well, and it looks like the second wave coming in here from Corvinus should be able to deal with this. Armor-piercing power dealing with the Men-at-Arms. Corvinus takes out kauP over here. So what did we learn from this game? I think one of the first things to look at is how vulnerable the order is to raids and counter units. Every single unit you make is a premium and it's very expensive. Diversifying your unit composition as a consequence is a lot more difficult with the order, so you are much more prone to being exposed to counter units. It was a heavy commitment to Men-at-Arms. Those Men-at-Arms were super tanky, but once the Onimusha made their way into the field, they become fragile. And of course, there was also a massive force of samurai on the other side. The other thing I've seen is that the order was very exposed to early aggression. Not necessarily because kauP opted to go for this fast castle approach. It's because every single unit you make is super expensive. You just don't have the numbers. And in these initial skirmishes in Feudal Age, if you don't have the numbers, you would just be raided left and right. That's what we saw from Corvinus. At the same time, Japanese have this massive economical prowess combined with a very diverse roster of units in Feudal Age. That combination, plus the fact that the Kura storehouse allows you to make a very quick and cheap farm transition, it means that they never really lose momentum, and they can keep this aggressive posture up in Feudal Age, and then go into Castle Age with a fairly powerful economy, unlocking the Buddhist monks, unlocking the Onamusha. I feel like Japanese, we've seen the style that most pro players will adapt going forward, which is just a very aggressive, raiding-focused approach, and behind this, just the passive build-up of this juggernaut economy. Whereas for the Order, I feel like players will have to sort out how to deal with early aggression, or perhaps we will just see players completely skipping this civilization for open maps, realizing that they are just way too exposed to early aggression. If you enjoyed this video, I greatly appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. It helps me greatly. Let me know what you think about the new civilizations down in the comments, and I will see you in the next cast.